I'm thinking of the legislature. This election wasn't all that this election, I guess, was relevant for Dan Patrick in that Dan Patrick did well. I think if Dan Patrick had won only by 5 or 6 points, we'd have a less confident and more circumspect Dan Patrick. Well, maybe it's Dan Patrick, but maybe going into the Senate. But this Dan Patrick also won by about 20 points. So any sort of dampening of his...
And he hasn't read Iyengar.
Yeah. His dampening of his enthusiasm isn't going to be there. So the real impact and the real change actually occurred in the Republican primaries because I think there's a twin force that's going to change the Senate pretty notably, and we'll have to see how much it does. And that first you have David Dewhurst being replaced by Dan Patrick. And those are two very ideologically as well as philosophically two very different people. So that's a move to the right. But even more so, we've seen a gutting of the Republican middle during the past primary cycle. So Robert Duncan went to take over the reins at Texas Tech. He's replaced by Charles Perry, one of the most conservative House members. Tommy Williams left to become public affairs officer for, someone called that a lobbyist, but I don't think he's technically a lobbyist, but he's public affairs at A&M. He was replaced by Brandon Creighton, someone who also is one of the most conservative Texas House members. John Corona, who was probably along with Duncan, one of the real moderate Republicans in the Texas Senate, he's replaced by John Corona, who's a strong movement conservative. And then Bob Deuel, Greenville, he loses to Bob Hall, who no one knows much about Bob Hall, but what we do know about him is he's likely to be more in the Empower Texan, Michael Quinn Sullivan mold of senators. So 4 very conservative senators, and they're going to be joined by Connie Burton from Tarrant County, who's taking Wendy Davis's old seat, which she won. So that's another move. All of the people who are leaving, Ken Paxton's being replaced by Van Taylor. That's a pretty much 1-to-1 match. Patrick by Paul Bettencourt on the conservative measure, pretty much the same. And, Glenn Hager will be leaving. He's more in the center. He probably will be the one that might be replaced by another sort of more middle of the road for the Texas Senate, which isn't middle of the road. In New York, that would be far right. But in Texas, middle of the road. So I don't want to impugn her by saying that she's moderate. So I'm trying to say that she's within the center of the delegation. But still, the Senate's moved to the right. So the balance of power in the Senate is now with the movement conservatives. And so we're likely to see a Texas Senate that's a little more activist and a little more active. Now, the only blocking to them is that the House didn't change at all. It's still under the control of Joe Straus. We still are going to have the centrist conservative Democrat alliance that will. And so, for me, the real interesting thing is when you have this one force that's Dan Patrick in the Senate and you have this other force, Joe Straus, which is a very different type of House. What are we going to see in terms of the clash of legislation? Are they going to be able to work through things and get them done together? Or are we going to see Patrick dumping lots of hot button issues into the House that create havoc for Straus because if he kills them, he takes heat. But if he lets them on the floor, he takes heat.